Okay, so today I'm working on the R1100R I bought a couple of weeks ago on eBay. I had a rear main oil seal leak, and so it's two-part seal, and I'm just taking the seals out now so I can put the new seals in. A bit frowny because it's very bright today. Okay, so this is where the bike is at. So gearbox is off. As you can see, I just drilled a couple of little holes in the seal and tapped some screws into them. Gave it a pull with a pair of vice grips and it came off easy. So you see what's happening with the seal there. I have drained the oil on the bike, so that's just what's left behind there. So now it's going to be the same process. Tap a couple of holes into that. So that's the inner seal. You can see along that edge there. It's looking kind of unhappy. So this is the outer seal. It looks in good shape. And I think it's the inner seal has failed, which is really putting pressure on the outer seal. And they do say that because this is part of the crankcase breather system, it's pressure on the crankcase breather that will push this oil out. But you can see that seal is leaking. 57,000 miles on this bike. It's year 2000, so 18 years old. Anyway, we'll pull this out and we'll have a look. Okay, so the inner seal came off easy. Anyone who says these things are hard to get off is obviously looking at a well-fitted seal, because these seals were not well-fitted. You can see the condition of the inside. It's absolutely spotless. They're just little bits of shrapnel that fell off when I drilled the seal, so I'll blow those out. Well, I won't blow them out because they'll fuck off into the engine, so I'll clean those out. Yeah, so here we have the old inner seal, and it does not take a genius to figure out what's been going on with this. So, I mean, fair play, this has clearly been in for a while. And the clutch was recently done on this bike. You would think that whoever did this clutch would have fucking seen all this oil, but apparently not. So there you go. There's a two-part rear main seal 1100 BM. It's the same on quite a lot of 1100s, 1150s. Some have a single seal, some have a double seal. It's quite a nice little system. Look how clean that is in there. That's so nice. Apparently one easy way to tell is depending on where your sight glass is. If it's in the fins, so it's in like the first fin, you have a single seal. If it's above the fins, you have a double seal. There's a little bit of corrosion around this bike, but it's nothing serious. Sod it. I got it for the right price, so I'm not bothered. Yeah, one thing that does bother me on this bike is this, where the that sort of outer sheath on that cable, and it's the same on a lot of the cables on this bike. This sheathing has just started to disintegrate because obviously they made it of super recyclable corn oil or some fucking thing back in the day. Yeah, so like bits like that. That's a bit shit, isn't it? Anyway, I've got to figure out what to do about that. Someone has used spiral wrap in various places, which is obviously pretty tidy. So, okay, so literally the bits have just arrived from BMW. Handy. I've got them mounted on my special tool. So the advice online is always use like a Coke can to do this thing. So what we've got is I sliced a Coke can, and it is the perfect size. Rested it over the spray tin. It just sits over the lid like this. So you see what's happening is it's forming the edge of the seal facing into the engine. So I'll spin this around actually. Okay, so it's forming the edge of the seal into the engine, yeah? So the seal is going in this direction. And that, you can see what I've done is I've trimmed the edge of the Coke can with the scissors. This kind of stuff, I mean obviously you don't want it jagged, but this kind of stuff is sitting over the end of the crank, so that's not a problem. Anyway, that bit, when it comes, let's have a look. When it arrives from BM, it looks like this. So what you do is you form the edge of the seal back into itself, and then you end up with it looking like this. So now this here's our back of our crank. You see I've cleaned it up, I haven't gone mad. I don't want to introduce a lot of brake cleaner into something that doesn't really need it. Okay, so now the Coke can pops over that. You can see the seal is slightly narrower than the outer. The inner seal is a slightly smaller diameter than the outer seal, so it pops into where it's going. And then you just use some kind of a press tool to push that into place. I'm happy that this can sits kind of square on the back of the case, crankcase. So yeah, I'm just gearing up the fucking balls to push it in. So you see this notch in the crank, right? So the crank is hollow, and this is relieving the oil pressure. So obviously you don't want the seal blocking this, so it needs to push past this. I didn't measure the depth of the inner seal quite clearly. There is a ridge that stops it pushing right to the end and smacking on that crank. Right, so we can see where the clearance is. I have to say I'm pretty happy with this. And based on the fact that these came out really easy, I'm pretty sure they're going to go in really easy. To the point that I'm just using a bit of cardboard to push them in. Anyway, we'll have a go. We will see. Okay, so one last quick video of this before I show you what I'm doing. So I've got a cardboard tube. It was basically the inside of some bubble wrap. It slides over this like this. I can keep it pushed on the edge of the seal. Fits both. It goes right down the middle. So I'm pretty happy that it's going to be doing its job. If I'm unhappy with anything, I'll just pull this can out, take that seal out, go super steady. I haven't heated anything up or cooled anything down, I'm just leaving it, I'm just pushing it in. I have put a little thin film of oil on that thing to help it along. That is my plan. Right, so this is the inner seal installed. Had a fucking bowl ache and a half of this thing. Only because well, my plan to use the cardboard tube was a bit stupid, even though it was a bit, it was quite a big, thick, solid tube. Anyway, what I ended up doing was trimming the end of the Coke can down so that my oil filter socket could fit over the end of it, and I could just get it started, just get the seal started in its little gap. I mean, the tube that I was using was working okay, but it just wouldn't get it started in its little recess. So yeah, so what I did was, instead of using this and having the tube going over the top of it, I just got another can, trimmed the end off it, bashed out the end so that it would fit over it, and then oil filter socket. You see the problem, these little studs here are sort of they will bottom out against the end of this, but anyway, it's enough to get it started. And then once you've done that, whip that out and Bob's your uncle. Right, so I'm just going to that is actually sitting at the same depth as the previous seal, and I have just had a little go around the edges with the drift, and it's fine. sitting there fine. I'm just going to give it one quick little go around and then do the outer. Alright, so yeah, I have had a little tap around the edge. What I'm using is a dead blow hammer and a Facom roll pen tool. Just because you don't want to stab that with anything. Anyway, you see my gap, it sits slightly proud of that lip, this seal on mine. And it does look like it's hanging over that, but it's not going to interfere with that. Right, so this is the outer seal. A little bit thinner than the original. But there isn't an awful lot of space to play with in there, so I am just going to set it to the same depth as the original, so just inside the face of that. And that's it. I have to say, I didn't make these marks, so maybe they were when the back of the flywheel came off. Although I doubt it, they're pretty substantial, aren't they? Anyway, I'll dress them with a file, just so they're not gonna fucking interfere with anything. And yeah, get on with it, and then we put this thing back together. Okay, so here's the outer seal in place. Did exactly the same thing, lined it up with the Coke can. Tapped it in with the oil filter tool. Worked quite well. It caught up on these a little bit. I should have made a better attempt at these, really. Yeah, it's not bad. It's much easier than the inner one. Just because I wasn't panicking so much. You see these little white kind of stretch marks on the seal. They're not actually splits, they're just a bit of discoloration, but perhaps I could have gone a little bit longer with the work in the seal. But I'm not unhappy with that. That seems like it'll be fine. I'm going to run it before I put it back together, and then we will see.